and welcome back to Pima Voices. My name is Savannah, and I'll be your host. Today, I am sitting down with George Romero, who is a Pima Community College alum and is currently a special education teacher at Tanque Verde High School. And today, we are exploring the world of education. How are you today, George?
I'm doing well, and yourself?
I'm good. So we just talked about earlier when you came in how it's been so long since I've seen you. It's been like a decade because we went to high school together. We were at Pima together. And so I love to see how like recently I was able to see that you are now a teacher at Tanque Verde High School. And I always thought you were going to be like in some sort of teaching aspect, but I thought you were going to be a coach. I really thought you were going to be a football coach. And so I love to see the path that you have taken, especially because today is International Education Day. And I was all like, he would be the perfect person to be on the podcast today. So thank you for coming by.
Yeah, thank you for having me. And funny enough, I actually am on the coaching staff at Tanque Verde High School. And that's actually what got me into education in the first place. Was straight out of high school, I ended up being a football coach and at a youth level, kind of going up the ranks, moving on to high school coaching at Rincon University. And from there, I kind of learned the ropes of coaching and even education. One of the teachers on staff and on the coaching staff, Kyrie Copeland, he was the self-contained autism teacher on campus, and I sat in on a few of his classes and kind of fell in love with what he did. And it was one of those things where I kind of got wrapped up into it, realized that this was a career path that I wanted. If I wanted to be a coach or a head coach, it was through education.
I love that. I love how, like, you know, you had one path and then it forged another path. And, like, I'm super excited to hear more about that journey. And so, like we mentioned, we both went to Savannah High School. It's been, well, we won't say when.
Yeah.
And then we both went to Pima together, and we both took classes at Pima and so forth. And so, do you think, like, starting at Pima is, like, what helped you? Because you did your Ajax studies here, right? So I forget what they called, but yeah.
Like gen eds.
Yes,
yeah,
gen eds.
Quote unquote gen eds were done through Pima. And absolutely, I wouldn't be at the U of A without Pima, obviously for credit reasons. But Pima was able to kind of be my gateway into education because, like you said, we went to Pima straight out of high school, but I actually stepped away from education for about 7 years. And it wasn't until I had met my wife who she kind of motivated me and pressed me to go back into the classroom. If I really wanted to pursue coaching, if I wanted to pursue teaching, it needed to be done correctly. She's a Pima alum, so she was super on board about me getting back into Pima, and I couldn't thank her enough for motivating me to do that. But yeah, Pima, I absolutely loved my experience here, especially because they met me where I was at. I was working a full-time job, so I was taking a full course load at night online, and it was easily accessible. Like I said, it met me where I was at in my work life, but also it was super gratifying to experience everything through Pima. Like I said, I wouldn't be in education without them.
Yeah, I mean, I think it comes up, well, not enough that, like, you know, people's educational path isn't linear. Not everyone, like, we started off that way where we kind of just, like, went to Pima right after high school. We did it, and then, like you said, you stepped away. Mine was, like, kind of that, too. I took a break after I realized I didn't want to do criminal justice. I took, like, a year off. Then I switched to fashion, and then I was like taking just like a few classes like here and there. And I think there's a lot of times where it's like, oh no, I have to get it done within 2 years because it's a 2-year transfer or this and that. But sometimes like things happen in life and we need to change that course path and just like kind of like, oh, where does that fit in later? And I love that you had the support of your wife. Like that's super like awesome, and having that support team is also like really important because sometimes, you know, you maybe want to take the step towards going back to school or something, but you kind of don't know where to go, who to ask for help, or, you know, what questions to ask, but you had it right there at home, which is awesome. And so Yeah, like education, someone's educational path isn't linear. It isn't always just like boom, boom, boom. This is the path that's going to take. Like life happens, especially as adults. Things come up, things change. And, you know, like you said, like you took classes at night, they were able to like kind of work and with like what your personal life was, what your work life was. And, you know, I kind of was like the same thing. I had to take classes at night because I was going to school during the day, or I was taking classes at night because I was going to work during the day. Mm-hmm. There we go. And so, like, it's a long day, too. And it's a lot of work, especially when you're doing, like, work and school. And, you know, I'm kind of still doing that now that I'm back at the U of A and doing my undergrad and everything there. And are you still at the U of A right now?
Yeah, I'm currently going into the mild to moderate program at the U of A College of Education. Right now, I'm able to be a teacher on campus because I'm what in education is called a TOSA, which is a teacher on special assignment. Mm-hmm. So I was hired almost in like a sub role, and then I ended up kind of getting a new role once I got into education or new role once I got onto campus, and it became, well, now you can become the self-contained teacher here and we can pair both you going to the U of A and you getting real-time experience in the classroom.
So that was really great that you're able to take your classes at the U of A, still be, you know, working and getting that, like you said, that real world experience. Because that can be really hard too when people like go to school and then they try to get a job and they're like, you don't have real world experience. You're like, well, how was I supposed to do that? Because I was in school, you know? And so having that, I didn't even know there was a path kind of like that within education and that career path where, you know, what did you call it? A TOSA?
Yeah.
Yeah.
TOSA, TOSA.
And so, you know, you were saying too, like with education, you specifically went into special education. That was because of a conversation that you had with someone else within the school you're working at, correct?
Well, actually, I went into special education. It was planned pre U of A, while I was actually at Pima. Mm-hmm. Again, my wife is my biggest supporter. She's the one she was a special education teacher, and she actually had the same path. She started at Pima and then followed it through to the U of A. So she was able to kind of walk me through everything lockstep. And her passion for special education actually just kind of rubbed off on me. She was like, you need to check it out. I know you're passionate about teaching, but where in teaching? And that was still kind of up in the air. I was like, well, I can do a lot of things, or I can learn about a lot of things and hopefully be able to teach them. And she was like, well, where you can do all of these things is within the realm of special ed. And specifically, she got me into, or kind of the options of special ed, like ILS, independent living skills. So you're teaching students how to live life after high school and how to live independently, especially disabled kids. They need to know things like that and prepare them for the real world. And also, like, my passion really lies in transition from school to work, or in our field, it's TSW. So again, I think it's kind of a blessing that I was in the job force for so long, because now I can actually go in with a mindset of, no, well, this is how you properly prepare to be in the workforce post high school, and this is how you properly prepare to be both college and career ready.
Yeah, I never thought about that, like already having that sort of like insight into how that works, how that would be beneficial within your specific teaching and career path. But I also love how, just like bring it back a little bit, like your wife was like your total like North Star, and like how important it was to have her support and really guide you through the process of like classes at Pima and transferring, and you know, you said doing it correctly and doing it right. And you know, we always talk about how education is so important, and so like how do you think, and why do you think education is so important to the community?
All right, so my thoughts on education are, it's absolutely important. Because, well, for two reasons, really. Education offers accessibility and opportunity. Accessibility in the sense of it can open doors for you wherever. Doors that may not have been open or doors you didn't know that existed are going to be there. So you have to delve into education to know what's out there for you or what you might be interested in. And same thing as opportunity. It's going to open doors for you that you didn't know were there. It allows you to access more than what you think you're capable of as well.
Yeah, I really like how you said that. And I think I brought this up with in the past with like Fabi when we were talking about how like she didn't really want to go to college. She didn't really see it in her path, but like her like someone had told her like, oh, you should just try it, like dip your toe in the water, see if you like it, and then you can take a step back. And I think that's important too, like growing up, you know, taking those like, I guess they're like, I don't know how to say like big boy decisions, but like, you know, you kind of have to like step forward and like step into that role of adulthood. And sometimes it is like, should I get an education to open those doors of opportunity? Like you said, there it could bring up something that you didn't even know like was within you. And like I think that's really important. That's also like self-discovery, self-expression. And sometimes when you're growing up, you're like, I don't like school, I hate school, I don't want to go to school, I don't want to continue, you know. But college can be like a totally different experience. And even just growing up and going through like, you know, elementary school, middle school, high school is important. And if that isn't connecting with you in that moment, you can always go back and get your what is it called? You can always go back and get like your diploma later, you know, and that's fine. And I think it comes up like we just mentioned earlier, like education isn't linear, and that's totally fine. And having that discovery of what education can actually open for you, I think is really important. And sometimes I don't think that conversation is brought up enough. And we're always taught like go to school, go to school, go to school, get a job, but like why? Because you can learn things about it. You can see what you're good at, what you like, what is your dream job, like how could that help you? And you know, being a teacher yourself, do you feel like you have this like sense of responsibility for like the next generation of students?
So yes, and in multiple ways actually. So I believe that there's multiple different ways to show leadership as well. And being an assistant coach, it's more servant leadership. So you're leading from like a secondary position and letting them know that's not a bad thing, that having a brain trust and falling in line and kind of doing what's asked of you is a noble pursuit, especially if it leads to a common goal. And even sometimes they have to know that you might not agree with 100% of what leadership thinks, but your place is to follow the plan accordingly and kind of just trust the process and go with it. So in that aspect, I can show servant leadership is a useful tool and a way to move forward and grow, really. And just in my classroom too, I have to be the leader and like take a more hands-on approach. I have to plan out a day and also be able to really adjust on the fly. Special education, it's really just education, not just special education. When you get into it, I can have the best plan in the world every single day, and 5 minutes in, it takes one thing to go wrong and I have to completely adjust. So showing that form of leadership of, well, I'm going to make these decisions. I have to live with these decisions every single day. Let's move forward as a team. Let's get things done properly.
Yeah, I mean, I like that point you said of like, you know, there's two different types of leadership we forget about. Like, you know, it's okay to have, you know, that servant leadership that you mentioned. Like, it's noble. Like, yeah, that was a really great way to say that. Like, it's a noble thing, and understanding that you have the same goal. And I think sometimes we forget about that. Like, when we do get into our career and workforce, we're always like, I want to excel and I want to do better. I want to do this, which is great. And you want to be the leader, but it's okay to like also be like, this person is in that leadership role. You're going to follow suit because you have the same career path. Like you said, you might not agree with everything that they're saying, but the end goal is the same, and that's what's important, and not to get lost in like you want to be the leader and the one in charge, but you're reaching the same end goal. So I like how you explained both parts. I think that was really insightful. And so, with being a teacher and like you said, showing these different things, what would you say to just like anyone about someone who wants to possibly go to college? Like, what would be your advice to them today?
So, specifically for education, or like Pima versus
I think
U of
just
A?
like in general, like you said, we both went to Pima like right out of high school, which might not be the path for someone, but what's like a general overall, what would you say? And then maybe we can talk of like give a little insight about or suggestion to someone who specifically wants to go into education.
So, first of all, I would say like go through Pima. I'm always a proponent for that, just because I think you touched on it earlier. Like education, or your education path isn't linear. So going here actually gives you so many more options, and it gives you a way to discover yourself. Kind of, it buys you that time, and at a cost-effective way to do so, or in a cost-effective way. I can kind of play the field, see what I like, and it's really the difference between finding what you like and what you love. And I think for me, that was the big difference, where I liked coaching. I love being a teacher, though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's a really great point. You mean like finding something you like versus something you love. And sometimes, people go to school and they get this whole degree and they're like, I'm not going to use this. I don't like it. And then they figure out way later in life. And so, coming to Pima specifically, I think, like we said, it's that self-discovery, figuring out what you want to do in life. And it's okay if it takes longer. I think for the longest time, like when I first started at Pima, I felt very like all this kind of sucks, because like all my friends are at the U of A and they started off there, and like, but we had such amazing times at Pima. Like I think we had a really great experience. Like initially, I know you came back later, and so, but sometimes it is like you just need a little bit more time, and that's okay. Like never compare yourself to other people. That's where the hard part comes in, is when you start to look at, well, this person's doing this and they already finished and I'm still behind, and I feel like I can't catch up, or I'm 30 years old and I'm going to school with people who are 19 and 20, and you're just like, oh, and I think it's really important. And you probably teach that within every day, like, it's okay to not compare yourselves to other people, because everyone's path is completely different. And your great moment is going to come, and it just might not be at the exact same time as Sue, who already finished her degree, And so, yeah, I think it's important to have that self-discovery. I like how you said that, self-discovery. Now I'm like, I'm going to use that all the time, because it's true. It's all about self-discovery and figuring out, what you like versus what you love.
Yeah, and there is definitely kind of a stigmatization, I think, that whether we self-impose it or it's imposed on us, of you need to go to your university or you need to graduate from a university. That's really not the case. Like there's so many admirable career paths that can be linked to Pima, that don't end at a university. And that's, again, why I'm such a huge proponent for Pima. Like even, it's funny because at my high school, I have like the crew neck, just block Pima Community College sweater that I wear. And it actually was funny because another teacher came up to me and kind of like gave me a weird look. And I was like, what?
Awesome.
Yeah, I'm proud of the path that I've walked. Yeah. And I know a lot of other people that have done it. So why would I put down a reasonable standard? And I think it's huge when you're talking to kids in high school that it's important to also set reasonable goals. If that means just going to Pima and trying it out at first, then that's super important. Or using Pima as a gateway to a university. Again, find yourself, find what you love, pursue it, and do it to the best of your ability.
Well, George, I've always thought you were very insightful. You always spoke in a very, I don't know if beautiful is the right word, but I'm going to say beautiful because it is a beautiful way, and you have very great insight. And I love how, I always saw you in that leadership role of coaching, but I never really saw it in teaching, but I think that fits so well for you. Now that I really think about it, like coaching is a form of teaching, but you also found another form to do that. And I think you're exactly where you meant to be. And I love seeing that progression over time and seeing where you are today and seeing all your insight being posed on to the next leaders of our generation. And I guess it's not our generation, but the next generation. Yeah. But you are kind of like a leader in our generation. I think education is really important. Making it accessible to everyone is really important. Pima can be an accessible option. There are options to make it more accessible to more people. Pima has many campuses all over town to reach, and like you said, there's that stigma, but I think that's changing. I really do think that's changing. It's taking time. Like I grew up where my mom was like, you're going to a 4-year university, so like I grew up like, I'm going to 4-year university, and so I think having that stigma change is really important, and then having people like you in the community who can show your path and share your insight and show like, this is what worked for me. It may work for you. It may not work for you. But here is what I think, something you can explore. And I think that having those open conversations is really important, especially being a teacher and in that high school realm where people are really I think high school is a moment where you can be influenced very easily for certain things. And so having and hearing different options, I think is really important in that time frame. So I think you're in the perfect spot. And I'm glad your wife was there to help guide you because I think that was really important for you too.
Absolutely. She was the biggest proponent for me to do this. So.
Well, George, was there anything else that you would like to say before we end our session today?
So in prep, I know we had talked about like what people going into education may want advice on or anything like that. Mm-hmm. So I just wanted to end on 3 things. I really tried to put thought into these, but first off, do it for the right reasons. If you just want to hold court in front of a class for 30 minutes and lecture, it's probably not going to be your field. Do it for the students. I feel that's the biggest thing in a good educator is you can tell they're there to really pass on and pass the torch of knowledge to the next generation. Number 2, it takes a real toll on you, so be ready for that. I know the first day I got out of teaching, I came home to my wife and I was like, I just want to sleep. It's like you have to constantly be on. It's physically and emotionally exhausting, but it's also worth it, which kind of leads to my last point is a lot of people believe education's outcome driven, where you set the end goal, you get there, and then you're satisfied. My view is education and being an educator needs to be process driven. Love the entire process up to the outcome because, like we said, the outcome might not be there right away, or everyone's process is a little bit different. So learn to love each step of it. Don't just say, I need one thing to be happy. Be happy the entire time.
Well, I think each one of those points is very important. And before we end, I just want to say your first point to add on, like some of my most happy moments have always been at school when I was young. Like I'm going to embarrass myself. I would cry when I would miss the bus. Like, I would be like, I want to go to school so bad. And it's because of my teachers. Like, my teachers made it such a happy, fun, engaging place. And you're right. Like, if you're there to stand up and, like, have this, like, power move and, like, just lecture, like, it's not for you. Like, some of the most influential people in my life have been like my educators, and I'm really thankful for them because I just have like these very vivid memories and very special memories of going to school, whether it's elementary school, middle school, even high school. Like I just have like teachers who just really made that impact. And while education and continuing it wasn't like my first thought there right after graduating, I still can bring back some of my best moments to just going to school and like enjoying it so much. And so I want to thank you for, you know, being a teacher and taking that role on. Because like you said, it's a lot. It can be a lot being a teacher. And sometimes I feel like you don't get thanked enough. And you have a very important job. And like I said already, I think you're in the perfect spot for you. And I love hearing and knowing that, you know, your path has taken you there. And I can't wait to hear more stories about your classroom. I can't wait to visit your classroom and, you know, meet your students. And yeah, and especially today on International Education Day, I think you shared a lot of great insights. So I want to thank you for your time.
Thank you.
And thank you to everyone tuning in to today's episode and for watching. And I will see you all next week. Thank you.